Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Adam Tiffen.
A spirited display by the Blues, but the Championship side Stoke City have just too much as they secure a place in the next round with a League Cup with a 2-0 win at Brunton Park. In this episode, we look back on the first round exit and discuss the key talking points from the game.
With a pass so true to ball the stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old one too.
I sometimes wonder about my life choices, Adam. Driving up midweek for a Carabao Cup game against an almost second-string Stoke City side who were always likely to beat us.
Yeah, I've got to echo those sentiments driving up from Liverpool. It's fine for me just going across Rickaby Park. Not whatever it is, 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Liverpool usually.
It took us nearly 3 hours. It took us, without boring anyone with a driving chat here, but it took us about an hour to get out of Liverpool because it took us the north way through. So it was a bit of a weird one, but yeah, a bit disappointing to go out in the first round again. But I think reality very much hit last night, and the gap between League Two, and Championship level, even allowing for the fact that they made so many changes, was quite stark, wasn't it?
Well, I think it became very apparent once they brought on a couple of their substitutes.
Yeah.
Especially because they were so much more fresh than all of our players were. So that was when it really sort of hit home. Yeah, these lads are unbelievably better, and that's that shouldn't be forgotten. I know they made a lot of changes and had the youngsters out, but they've got a very good academy and they've got a very good squad in general, especially compared to any League Two side.
Oh, absolutely, which we'll talk about when we get onto the discussing the game itself. Before we get started, just the usual housekeeping and reminders. You can contact us if you want to get in contact with us. We've had a few emails recently about a few topics. Thank you very much for them. I'll discuss one of them actually when we talk about the Stoke team later. You can contact us on X at Brunton Bugle. The same on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook and email us bruntonbugle@gmail.com. This season, we are sponsored by the Carlisle United Fisher Supporters Club, which will soon be becoming the Carlisle United Supporters Trust. Really grateful for their kind contribution this season. We're going to have a proper advert going in there soon. They're getting a little advert done, like a little clip to drop in rather than having me rambling on each episode, trying to remember exactly what to say. So it'll sound much more professional very soon, so don't worry about that. But yeah, they've got their members meeting on Sunday where the Piatics will be attending as well. So well worth going down for that. You can still get tickets for it, if you go to their Twitter feed at CUOSC, I think it is. And obviously the website cuosc.org.uk. So just go on there and find out. You can join for £10 if you're not a member already. Well worth it for your 10% discount in the club shop. You spend £100, you've already paid it back basically. Plus, obviously, you get priority for some of the away games and big cup games after season ticket holders. Right, let's get into it then, Adam. Carlisle United 0, Stoke City 2. It's kind of like to be expected now, isn't it, in the first round of the Carabao Cup? I mean, I was looking for stats on this, and it's the 5th season in a row that we've gone out in the first round of the Cup. And when you look back before that, I mean, the last time we got through to the second round, we actually beat a Championship club in the first round, which was Barnsley, 3-0 at Oakwell as well. And prior to that, under Curl and under Abbott, we had quite a good record in this competition at this stage, but it just seems inevitable now, doesn't it?
I don't remember who we last played in, like you said, those previous years prior to this one, in the first round. But yeah, it just feels like every single year we get that first Tuesday out of the way, and then that's it for a little while in terms of cup competitions. Yeah,
last year was a lot worse because it was Harrogate. If you remember rightly.
Yes.
Tried to block out your head and over. And then the 2 years prior to that were Shrewsbury and Sheffield United, if I remember rightly. I think Oldham might have been one as well, possibly. I think Oldham was a season.
I remember the
opener,
Sheffield
wasn't it?
one. I remember the Sheffield United one because I remember Ryan Brewster playing against us.
He did.
I
Yes.
don't remember Shrewsbury too well though.
Shrewsbury was not last season before, and I'm pretty sure Oldham was the COVID season, because I think that was the season opener, if I remember rightly.
Right.
I could be wrong on that one, but there you go. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the game. Team news beforehand. So we tried to sort of guess, didn't we, beforehand? Was he going to make loads of changes? Was he going to do, mix it up a little bit? And Simo did suggest he was going to make changes. In the end, just the one switch from the defeated Gillingham, and that was Ben Williams. He obviously came in just before the game, so fitness-wise, you want to be careful with him. He dropped out to the bench, and Jack Ellis came in, slotting in at left wing back. And the only other change was Sam Hetherington coming onto the bench as an additional substitute. Ben Barker continuing in midfield. Were you quite surprised by this?
Yeah, I expected one of the fullbacks to change at least. I think the pick of either of them was smart, because obviously on the one hand you've got Williams, who's only just come in and just getting up to match fitness, but then you've got Archie Davies, who obviously has played a lot of games already.
Yeah.
Prior to the start of our season, and I saw Simpson said after the game that he's not played a Tuesday night game in a long, long time. Not done that Saturday.
They don't generally do that in Ireland, do they?
Yeah, so either of those made sense. But I did think at least one of the forwards would change, just for a bit of just to give Kelly and Armstrong. Obviously, we later found out about the injury to Kelly, or what problems he's having, muscular ones at half time. Yeah, but I don't think that would have factored in based off what Simo said. Yeah, that seemed like something that was sprung upon him at half time rather than something he knew about prior. But I thought even Luke Armstrong might have got a run out just for just to get him some minutes. I know it's a game they want to win, but you've got to be realistic about these sorts of ties.
I wonder if the thinking with that from what Simo was saying was, I wonder if he's trying to build a partnership up there with Wyke and Adoije, and that's why he thought rather than split them up straight away now, keep that running. I always thought that was the reason why he stuck with most of the team. The fullback, wing-back decision was an obvious one, but the rest of it, I think it was more a case of I want to get a bit of continuity here almost and build that up over the next few weeks. Maybe that's the thinking, possibly.
I think the only other debate about who to start was at goalkeeper. Which I think ultimately we'll get onto, was proven right. But that was certainly one I think that people would have understood if he did make a change.
I think with that one, I think it was a case of if he makes that change there, it suddenly makes it a talking point. I think if he'd said before the start of the season, I'm going to be playing Breeze in the League Cup game, just to give him a game, it's not, there's no issue there, you would have got away with it. But I think after the weekend and what had happened, I think he had to stick with Lewis almost as much as we might have wanted it. It was a tough one for Simo, that one. Let's talk about the game itself then. First half, I thought they were the better side, but actually on the balance of play of chances and that kind of thing, there wasn't that much difference between the two teams really when you look back at it, was there?
No, and obviously, as we mentioned, it's a big change in terms of team for Stoke, but we did put up a good fight, and there were a few chances where they came close. They did hit the bar twice or something. No, they hit the bar once in the first half and then once in the second half, I think. Yeah. So they came close on occasion. They looked threatening, especially Kumas down the wing. He always looked a bit of a handful, but I think we dealt pretty well on the whole. Obviously, we're not going to be able to maraud past them and, outplay them with clever triangles and things like that. I mean, some of the players had in the team, like Wouter Berger, who I heard somebody in the paddock compare to a young Jamie Devitt, which I thought was an absolutely fantastic shout. This lad who I think they paid a couple million for him last summer, being compared to Jamie Devitt.
This is not me having a dig here or anything, but that is what you call a reverse James Phillips. That comparing a real top class player to a lower league football instead, isn't it? But there you go.
I loved being back in the paddock though. Some of the things you hear are brilliant. It's
brilliant, isn't it? It's amazing. I've got a friend of mine who normally sits in the East Stand, and he was telling me because he had to sit in the main stand. He said it was amazing. He said there was someone sat near him who must have lived the most wonderfully offline summer you've ever come across, because one of the first two things he said were, "Who's that big number 10 for us? He looks a real nuisance, doesn't he?" And also, where's Armour at? So that probably tells
a sheltered life.
Bliss. It sounds like bliss. But yeah, you're right. They were a very good side. Technically very good. They're not like. Well, actually, no. We'll talk about them in a minute in terms of the way they play. But chances wise, they had a couple of good ones. Ennis, there was one where Ennis got very lucky actually because Mellish slid in to try and block the. In fact, no, sorry, I think it was Neil slid in to try and block the ball and actually inadvertently played a through ball down the wing for Ennis.
Yes, yeah, another one.
Thomas did very well actually to force him wide and really shorten the angle. And I think if he'd got it on target, I think Lewis probably would have got a fingertip to it, so he wouldn't have gone in. But for United up the other end, ironically again, Archie Davis, all the chances have fallen to him at the moment, aren't they? For a player who's never scored a goal, two really good chances.
I don't think that's by accident though, because even in the pre-season games, he was getting into good positions. You don't necessarily want him to be the one on the end of them, but he looks like he's going to be getting in positions regularly to set other people up.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a real player for us. I really, really do. I'm really impressed so far.
I'm happy with my pick for player of the season with him.
Yeah,
so far.
It's not looking a terrible shout. I think the Big John shout's looking a good one as well. To be fair, I think the pair of them have been excellent so far. But there you go. Harrison Neal arguably had the best chance we had though, didn't he? One where actually no, I suppose Wyke's chance is maybe better. But Neil had a great chance from the edge of the box where he hit, to be fair, struck it brilliantly. And the keeper makes a good save because it comes through a crowd of players to put it around the post. But Neil actually created the best chance for Wyke, didn't he? Where he nipped in, got the ball on the edge of the box and drives into the box and plays a low ball. And I don't think it's the easiest chance in the world for Wyke because he has to try and angle his body to turn it towards goal. But I think Charlie Wyke, who's already got 2 or 3 goals this season, puts that in the back of the net, I think.
It is still a tough chance because it's come at him quickly and he doesn't have the angle to try and... The only option is to try and put it near post. Yeah. He doesn't have the choice of being able to put it across the box because partly the amount of people who were between him and the far post, it would have got some sort of deflection and maybe gone wide. You just have to try and fire it in at that near post. But yeah, it was one of the time that we racked in and you go, oh, that was close, but it's not one that you... Personally, I didn't ponder on it and gone. It wasn't like the one when he was in the box and hit the bar against Gillingham where you go, oh, what if that had gone in? You know, we really should be finishing that. I think it's probably a bit of a harder chance than that. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with you on that one. And I think probably the best chance of the half for the visitors, and probably arguably best chance of all from both sides, was the Sidibe chance, where it was actually came from a brilliant ball down the left by Johnson for Ennis, who sublime bit of control to bring the ball down. Through on goal, and actually Harry Lewis once again, his starting position very good, comes out and makes the block, and the loose ball comes to Sidibe. And I'm probably being a bit harsh, can't say an open goal here, but actually he still had plenty to do to try and get the ball over and into the net, didn't he? And
as soon as he approached it, I thought he's going to miss this. He just didn't look like he was going to be able to get it down enough. He was going to have to get it up and over. Was it Thomas who was back there? Whichever defender was back there, and Lewis. But he just when he approached the ball, I think he was probably too close to it to actually be able to get it back down again. But there's a couple heart in your mouth moments throughout the game, which is to be expected when you're playing against a team of that quality.
So you go to the break half time. I think most fans are saying, "Yep, you know what, another good solid performance. You can see the good signs there. That's not too bad. Just keep it tight at the start of the second half." What happens? And pretty much identical timing to the goal against Gillingham. They take the lead through. To be fair, I've seen a little bit of criticism for Lewis for this, and maybe I can sort of get it. But for me, it's a good free kick routine.
Yeah, it is. I didn't have an amazing view of it because I was more down towards the other end. So in terms of like where Lewis was, he was sort of in the crowd from my view, so I didn't quite see where he was. But yeah, it just looked like a nice little chip ball to the back post. Yeah. Their defender rose higher than ours, and I didn't actually see, what part of the goal it went in, whether it just sort of dribbled in or whether it went in, at a much closer point than I thought it did, because it looked like it sort of just slowly went across the box and went in.
So what happened was, obviously, Barker takes a short free kick to Manhurst, and it comes back to him, clips a lovely ball to the back post, where Freddie Anderson heads the ball back across goal. Lewis almost sort of ends up in the net because of his momentum trying to come back across to get to it. And actually, I think if we can see, if Stoke have like a pitch side feature thing that they do, whatever, and we watch it back, I think it's actually a Terrell Thomas own goal. Because if you watch it comes back across on the highlights, it looks like It's right on the line, to be fair, but it looks like Thomas is basically the one who bundles it over the line. Nothing he could do because his momentum is taking him straight into it. But it's one of those goals where you look and you think, yeah, Lewis maybe could do a little bit better, but I'm not. It's not like it's an aberration or a fault. It's just a really good move, and he's just caught with his momentum taking him across goal. There's nothing really much he can do with it, to be honest. So
no, I agree.
Frustrating, really, for that to happen. From there, Stoke just started to sort of get a little bit more on top, got a bit confident. Manhurst, cracking little player he really looks. He cut back onto his left foot from the right wing and smashed one against the bar. Then United had a couple of decent chances. Lovely little bit of play by Vela and Ellis down the right. Ellis, nice little slip through ball to probably the last play. You want that to be wiped out your Armstrong, really. As it is, it's Harrison nearly slides it through to, and on the stretch he forces a save from the keeper. And from the resulting corner, arguably United's best chance of the night, even though it was a bit scrambled one, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Just because of how close it came to coming in, that little overhead kick from Armstrong. I didn't really know what had happened at the time. I just saw that somebody had got a shot off. I didn't realise that it was Armstrong necessarily. There's a few players in and around there I thought might have got the touch on it to send it towards the post. But yeah, ultimately, just sort of dribbled back off the post. Nobody was there to follow it in. Keeper was able to just sort of fall on it pretty easily. Again, though, I don't think it was one where you go, oh, you've got to be doing better there. It's just, it's an annoying one, not a frustrating one for me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think it is a good chance, but like I say, I don't think it's one like a completely guilt-edged. You have to score there because it was actually, even though it's like 3 or 4 yards out, it was a difficult chance. Essentially, I think it was Thomas that headed the ball down, wasn't it, from the corner? And
yeah, I think so. There was a few first front post deliveries again, which I thought, I don't know if they're trying this as a tactic, but maybe it was just like, a bit inconsistent corner taking. But once it went to that more lofted, floated corners, I think that worked a little bit better, even though nothing necessarily came from them.
No, it certainly caused more problems. But yeah, Armstrong just sort of tried to hook it towards goal, hit the post. And to be fair to him, he tried to hit the ball when he was lying on the floor. But he couldn't really stretch his neck enough to direct it away from the goalkeeper, unfortunately.
Hasn't John Mellish done that before? I feel like I've seen him doing that in the box, trying to like throw his head at something.
I feel like he has, yeah. To be fair, Big John actually probably got in Luke's way a little bit on that chance. I think if he wasn't there,
wasn't he? Yeah.
He might have had a cleaner opportunity to get a shot away. As it was, he didn't go in the back of the net. And yeah, from there, there was one more chance, I think, for Stoke where Johnson went on the overlap and his ball across just missed Ennis. And then they wrap things up with 11 minutes to go through Emre Tezgel. Lovely bit of play by Lyndon Gooch, wasn't it? Defence splitting pass. I think, to be fair, we were a little bit ragged by that point because we were throwing men forward to try and get ourselves back into the game. Tezgel does really well, actually, to hold off the defender. And to be fair, Lewis does the right thing. He comes out and closes the angle, and 9 times out of 10, that ball probably spins out for a corner. And you go, that's good goalkeeping. As it is, it deflects off him, and the backspin on it just takes it away from Aaron Hayden into the back of the net. Yeah,
unfortunate one for Lewis, because I think he did that a couple of times where he came out and closed the angle quickly. I know Paul Simpson spoke after the game about him being more positive, even when coming out to punch it or tip the ball away from crosses. I do think he was a lot more positive outwardly in this game, which is good to see. But yeah, it's just, like you say, another one of those where slight margins, it goes against us a little bit, but it is good play from Stoke, and that was around the time in the game where you thought, we're really not going to be able to do much here because they've got on the good players, they're all fresh, and they can pretty much do as they please.
I mean, they brought on players who started their win over Coventry at the weekend. That's the that's the difference.
Well, Tezgel being one of them, wasn't he?
Tezgel, Lyndon Gooch, I'm pretty sure, started that game possibly, I think, and I know that Bocat definitely had. So it was kind of, at that point you're like, okay, they're going to take control of the game here. We huffed and puffed. We threw Big John. I think Big John was playing right wing at one point, which means
he was, yeah.
Which means he's only got right back left to play, and he's played every single position on the pitch for us except goalkeeper. Which you never know, if a goalkeeper gets sent off, you wouldn't bet against him.
Yeah, I would not put that past him at all.
100% he'd give it a go, I reckon. But yeah, so one position left to go for Big John. huffed and puffed and never really had a chance after that, to be honest. So game over, 2-0 out of the cup. Yeah, just the stark reality of it. We'll talk about some of the talking points in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 60-second reviews first. So we've actually only got 2. I've written down 3, but I haven't got one of them in yet. I don't think so. I'm probably not going to include that one. Let's start out because I wanted to try and get some differing views, and I know some of these people have got differing views on the game. So I'm going to start with Regan's. So it's Regan Thompson, one of our regular contributors over the last few years. Here's his 60-second review of the game.
I'm not really too arsed about that result, to be honest with you. We just needed to see an improvement on Saturday, and I think we got that in spells. We really need to cut out these mistakes that are leading to goals because we're just gifting them to teams. Mellish losing his man, it's Sunday League stuff really. I saw Simo say it was a bit of quality from Baker, and yeah, it's a good ball, but it's Sunday League stuff. Sticker next to your man on a set piece, and we're not doing that. So we need to stem play out and sharpish because that's been a problem for like a season and a half now. Positives, we're keeping the ball more and we're creating some good chances. We just need to start taking them, which I think obviously you're banking on Charlie Wyke doing that, and he does have the experience to do it. A lot of folk are calling for Simo's head, which I find a bit bizarre. We're 180 minutes into the season and he's obviously going to be given the window. Obviously big defeats could change that, but he'll be given the window, and he has to turn it round, and we've got to do that on Saturday against Barra, up the Blues.
Interesting viewpoints there from Regan, particularly on the goal, actually, because I hadn't really thought about it as a Mellish lost his man thing. And I've just watched it back now while he was talking. I thought, I'm going to quickly go and watch the highlights and watch that goal, see what happens. I can see why he thinks Mellish lost his man. But actually what happens is Mellish ends up picking up Anderson. I don't think Anderson's actually his man initially. I think he's got someone else, and he actually ends up going to Anderson, and as a result, he can't quite get it. I might be wrong on that one. I might need to watch it again. But yeah, I think he's right. Some interesting points on the views of the fans and that there.
Can we just talk about that a little? Because I'm sure you'll have seen some of the... It was very sort of... not. I don't think polarised is the word. There was just some very opposite reactions. There were some people who were, saying, disgraceful performance, and, if we lose on Saturday, the whole thing should just be canned. And then there's some people obviously who were saying, we're, like Regan said, 180 minutes into the season.
Yeah.
Give the players and the manager a bit of time to come together. I think they have gelled well, but, give them more time to do so. So, what did you make of the reaction to the game?
You know what? I've got this down as one of the main talking points for later, because I want to go into a bit of depth on this one. And I think you're right. It's a really interesting point. So I will come back to that. Right. You're absolutely right on it. I'm going to play Greg's because I think Greg might have a slightly different opinion to Regan, basically, because I stand with Greg at the games, and we talk as the game's going on. So here's what Greg had to say.
So I thought first half we played okay. I did expect us to lose last night. We are against a team 2 leagues above us, and it did show in their play. They just do that had a little bit more zip about them. They did create more chances than us. Harry did make some good saves in the first half. If we were 1-0 down at half time, it would have been fair, but I'll take that at half time. Second half, it was a well worked goal. Harry was maybe slightly out of position, but it was well worked in the build up. Second goal killed us. I thought Simo got the first substitutions right. It was good to get the minutes with Archie and off, and getting the new lads on, and taking Dan off. I thought that was right. I'm disappointed he didn't take off Harrison, Neil or Vela. We have to protect our midfielders because we just don't have enough of them at this moment in time. So he should have made a substitution there. Butterworth did nothing when he played up front, so I don't know why we're persistent to even try that. So yeah, first half was encouraging, but we have to be realistic now as Carlisle United supporters. Yes, that was a League Cup game, but going forward, when it's league games, we can't be saying we played well because it's a results-based industry. It's all about Saturday. It's 3 points, nothing less will do, up the Blues.
So yeah, slightly different opinion there from Greg, I think it's fair to say. Mm-hmm. generally, I was studying when I did agree with him. Actually, I was a little bit surprised that Neven Deal or Vela came
Me
off.
too.
I thought even if you throw Jake Allen on for the last few minutes, just to give him a bit of game time and to freshen up. I know they're just filling a space, Jake Allen and Sam Hetherington, basically, but I think it would have been, it would have just helped just to give one of those two a little bit of a break, because Harrison Neal, I don't want him to start looking knackered like we're a month into the season, because I'm worried he will do, because he has having to do a lot of running at the moment. Let's then move on and let's get on to the talking points. We will come to that point about the fan reaction as one of the last ones, because I think I want to save the time for that one. It wasn't much change, Stoke side, as we mentioned there. I think they made 8 changes in total. I think they had a couple of 17-year-olds and an 18-year-old in there, definitely. But, I mean, they just had too much quality in there, didn't they? You know, I mean, played some not a very typical Stoke side that you'd remember from the Premier League days, where they played some nice football.
No, not at all. But like you said, they've got... I'm just looking at their starting lineup here. We did wonder whether Victor Johansson was going to start in net for them, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I thought the Stoke fans were sort of ironically cheering the goalkeeper anytime he did anything. I don't know if he's like I don't know if he's got like a bit of he's 36, so I don't know whether he's a bit of sort of like a cult hero or... It's
the first time he's played in 2 years.
Yeah, so I don't really know what he's... Yeah. But like they've got Lewis Kumas, who I mentioned, on loan from Liverpool, Niall Ennis, proven championship player. Go on.
Kumas won the competition last year. I think people are like, oh, he's a kid. Like, he literally played in the final last year. You got to remember that.
Yeah, Niall Ennis, proven championship player. Walter Berger, proven championship player. Lewis Baker, very, very proven championship player. Ben Wilmot, solid championship player. And then obviously the people who came off the bench, Lyndon Gooch, well known. Josh Laurent, very well experienced championship player. Bocat, who looks a decent addition for them. And then, they didn't even use likes of Chamadou, who was at Colchester a few years ago, who they bought from them. Ben Gibson as well, who's just come from Norwich. It's such a difference in squad and depth, quality. They've just absolutely everything about their team was better than ours. And we can't really expect us to do, I'd say, too much more than we did, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you're reeling off the names there, and you're like... I said this to... I drove back with Lewis, who's one of our regular listeners, who likes to listen to this when he's on his run, so he'll like his little shout out there. Keep on going, Lewis. We will not face 2 better centre midfielders this season than Baker and Berger. We just won't. Not our level. I mean, was someone saying that Berger's been linked with a move to Spurs this summer?
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
They're signing from Basel. I mean, come on. That is the difference we're facing here. And, Baker's had about a million different clubs on loan from Chelsea, and now he's been regular for Stoke. And even up front, like I said, those 2 wingers in Kumas and Manhoff.
Manhoff's been linked to Leeds today.
Yeah. We're not going to face 2 better wingers than that this season, realistically. I mean, for me, Manhoff, when I spoke to the guys from the Stoke pod, they said like their fans sort of almost compare him to he's like a new Shaqiri, and I can see that. He's short, stocky, he's got those big calves, hasn't he? And he can really strike a ball.
I think Jack Ellis and John Mellish did do well against him. They did.
No, they did.
Keep him quiet for a while, but like you say, you can see the moments where he really shines, though.
I think the other side, they found it tougher, but that actually will bring me on to a point in a minute talking about the defence. But yeah, you can really see it with them. And I mean, even look, they had, I think 3 players whose dads were professionals, didn't they? So there was Lewis Kumas, Sidibe, was the one who played for Stoke years ago, and Viv Anderson's son played at centre-back, who scored the opening goal. So, there's a lot of, talent coming through there. They've got the genes, haven't they, basically, for it, I think it's fair to say. I mean, to be fair, if come the end of the window that Sidibe was available for loan, I'd take him on loan as a midfielder. I think he'd offer us something completely different. Yeah, that's the kind of midfield I'd like to see us sign. Someone just a little bit more invention, a little bit more dribbling in there, maybe. But yeah, so Stoke, fair play. I mean, if you were going to... This is something actually that one of our listeners emailing in... He dropped me a little email and just wanted to say he really enjoyed listening to the show, and I'm going to look up his name in a minute. But he suggested that we should, for every game, pick out an opposition player as the best player for the opposition and try and put together almost like a team of the season at the end. So, I mean, you were at the game at Gillingham on Saturday, so I'll let you pick that one in a minute because we didn't actually do that on Saturday. But if you were going to pick one for last night, who would you probably say?
Valterberger.
I 100% Valterberger. I don't think we'll see a better, unless we get someone decent in the cup. We probably won't see many better players this season. For Gillingham at the weekend, who would you have picked?
To be honest, I know they won 4-1, but none of them like absolutely impressed me. Like, oh, this lad's really good. I'd probably put Jack Nolan just because of his pedigree. But other than that, there wasn't too many of them who were like really standout players. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with that. Jack Nolan, I 100% agree. So Jack Nolan's the pick from the weekend. Liam McHugh was the one who did that. So thank you very much for that, Liam. Really appreciate that. We were never really going to dominate this game. We knew that. You know, possession-wise, look at the stats. It's a stark difference. We dominated. Well, we were on top for the possession of the weekend. For this one, it was 63% for them, 37% for us. So they had nearly twice as much possession. But chances-wise, we created as many, technically 12. You know, there were better chances. I mean, that's the thing. In the last 2 games, we've created good chances, but I wouldn't say we've created many gilt-edged chances, have we?
Mm-hmm. I think that's where your point about bringing in somebody who's maybe more of a number 10, somebody who's going to link play, who's going to offer both a creative threat and somebody who's going to potentially threaten the goal as well. That's where someone like that can come in, because I think for all it's well and good, you know, having the likes of Vella and Neil who've got the legs to press up and get near the strikers. Once they get there, it's what they do with it, and they don't often do what you'd maybe hope they'd do, because that's just not the type of players they are. They're not the type of players who are going to create chances often and, you know, see the pass that other people aren't going to see. So I think that area is somewhere where we can definitely add.
No, absolutely. I'm going to go through areas of the team here and I'll just talk about them. So, I mean, we've talked about him a bit already, but Harry Lewis, I think most would agree, a much improved performance. I think every game he plays, his starting position for through balls is very good anyway. We know that. He's good as a sweeper keeper, and actually his distribution's been pretty fine so far this season, you know, but that is to be expected with him. It was more his decision-making in terms of saves and actually for crosses, as you say, much, much better from this one. Like you said, maybe he can do a little bit better on their goal. I think it'd be harsh to say that. Second goal, I think he's done as well as he can. He's closed the angle. The key thing for him now is he's got to keep this forward momentum going, doesn't he? The improvement has to keep 100%. Going. We can't have one duff game, one good and then one duff. There has to be a consistency there, hasn't there?
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'd say for people who are obviously maybe hedging the bets on maybe bringing in Gabe Breeze is you will not be able to play the style of football we've played in the first 2 games with Gabe Breeze, where the goalkeeper's always an option when we're in possession. You know, Harry Lewis just being there allows us to be so much more confident on the ball, because they always know if they go back, they've got a keeper there who can play and play out properly, rather than somebody who's probably going to hoof it up more than they should do. So it is a bit of give and take. You'd rather there was obviously less of the big mistakes. But like you said, if he can keep up that positive momentum, I think it's generally I think you can criticise him for some of the potential saves he could have made against Gillingham. But the main thing is just being confident with when he's under that pressure of the ball being crossed into him. As long as he gets something on it and he's not muffin catches and all that sort of stuff, I think we can live with it.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there was one point in the first half where he just got the slightest fingertip onto a cross coming over, and it just took it away from the attacker. And even something like that, you're like, that's fine. You don't have to catch all of them. Just get that little touch and take it away. So yeah, much, much better. Let's just see more of the same going forward, please. Okay. Onto the defence. It's a difficult one to judge because they were a very good side, as we said. Were you a little bit concerned about how much they were getting in down our right side? And particularly Hayden looked a bit exposed at times. It feels like it's getting done up, but before you answer on this one, I'm just going to say, I do wonder if that is a little bit linked to the fact that Archie Davis spends a lot of the time further up the pitch, and it does leave a big gap in there. And with not having someone like Callum Guy, who's naturally used to sweeping over there and covering that position, is that an issue, do you think?
I think it's just because of the nature of our press. Yeah. Simpson's obviously telling Davies or Ellis, whoever's playing that right wing back position, we want you to be up on their full back.
Yeah.
So that's going to automatically create more space for whoever's at left wing. Hayden's going to get brought over to the right hand side. That's usually what they're going for. And then Barkley is usually the one who's not marking anybody. They're not 100% going man for man. So then I guess he's got that ability as a centre-back to fill in. That might change when we get a centre-mid rather than having Barkley playing that position. But I do think it's a byproduct of the way that Simpson wants to defend.
Yeah, I think you're right there, to be fair. And I think it's maybe one of those ones... It's going to take a bit of time getting used to, but once it does work, it'll work quite well, actually.
I think just with the nature of Hayden and his athletic ability, I know he's not necessarily rapid, but he's quick enough and he's got strength. Yeah. So I think he can... It's not like if we were playing Sam Lavelle in that position, I would not advise it because we're just going to get done over and over and over again.
As we saw
at least
last season.
Hayden's got the ability to, if he's not going to get back and make a challenge, at least just to be a presence on the shoulder of the attacker if they are going down the wing. And make it a little bit harder for them.
And you've got to remember as well, this is the first time in, a couple of years at least, that Hayden's had a stretch of games that he's played. You know, he's not played consistent football for a long time, so it's going to take him a little bit of a while to get used to that. I think once he gets up to full speed, he's going to be a big asset. The wing backs, I thought they both played really well, actually. As you mentioned, we've already mentioned Davis and how good he's... I agree with you. I think he's potentially going to be a player of the season, though I'm starting to think, having seen a couple of games. I know it's early days, but actually, you know what? I thought Jack Ellis did really well at left wing back because I was a little bit concerned about that. I thought he's going to be much more of a left back than a left wing back, but actually, he really got up the pitch that first half, and there was a couple of times that I was screaming like, "Get the ball out to him! He's in acres of space." And what he did, because I know this is something that I've seen a few people mention, if you look at his stats for forward passes, his completion on that is pretty poor. It's not great. Whereas actually, last night, I don't think he really misplaced a single forward pass. He was using the ball really well. He was intelligent. And I think what really helps him when he plays on the left side is having someone like Mellish bobbing forward, doesn't it?
That, yeah. And also, I think just the fact that he can cut inside. Because obviously, when he's on the right-hand side, his preferred foot is his right foot. So when he cuts inside to maybe try and throw something else at the defender. He's not the quickest of lads. He's not somebody who's going to be able to knock it past his opposite number and get round them just with sheer pace. Yeah. So being able to come inside on his right foot and play it into midfield, or come inside and then play a reverse pass to Mellish who's overlapping, I just think he had a bit more options. Obviously, he's a centre back naturally. That's what he played when he was in the youth team. He's not a wing back, so we shouldn't expect him to be like Davies, who's much more confident on the ball. He won that free kick in the first half just with a little slalom and run, which annoyingly then a minute later they had pretty much the same scenario, the opposite end, did much better with. But no, I think Ellis probably overperformed compared to what people thought he would in that position, and it's a good sign that he's very adaptable even at such a young age. Yeah,
absolutely. I think there is a part of me in my back of my head thinks we should get him out on loan somewhere to get him some game time to really build him up as a player. But then there's part of me thinking, actually, you know what? He's going to be a really useful player this season. To have on the bench, especially, because like I said, you can play left wing back, you can play right wing back, but also he can slot into that defensive role. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he could actually do all right in that defensive midfielder role as well. I know Barkley's there at the moment. I think he could probably do an okay role there. But he'd have to develop
the presence. I think Barkley's got maybe more presence of mind to be able to check his shoulders and all that. Even though his touch might not be the best, he does have the mannerisms of somebody who could play there. So I wouldn't be too confident about that, to be honest with you. But
I don't think. I'm not saying do it now, right now, but I think eventually he could actually adapt to that role. Possibly, I think he's shown himself to be able to adapt to different roles. So you never know. Well, that brings us on to midfield then. It's functional at the moment, but I think it's doing all right. I don't think... I totally get that we need to get a midfielder in to give us another option there, because even if McGeer comes back to fitness in a few weeks, you're still like, there's every chance he's going to break down again, because this has happened before. So I do get that, but I actually think they're doing all right. I think Barkley's doing a solid job. It's not a long-term option, no doubt about that. But actually, because I heard a few people having a go at him at the game. And I was like, really? I thought he had a decent game. I thought he used the ball very well. He kept it all very simple. There are areas, like you said, he needs to be helping to cover on the right side a little bit more when Davis goes forward. But yeah, I thought he did all right, to be honest.
I agree. And it's not, like you said, we do need an addition there, and I think everybody knows that. But it's not a car crash. It's not like a horrendous midfield that's losing the ball all the time. We're struggling to, get out from defence. That's just not the case. We've played two good teams with two good midfields. I don't think we've looked massively overawed. I think, both games you could argue that we were the worst of the two midfields. And that could be the same again on Saturday if there's no additions made prior to it. But we've not been, this horrendous midfield team who's really, really struggled. It's just in the clinical areas of the pitch, which is obviously the most decisive. For a team that wants to get promoted, that's where you need to perform best. But it's not the end of the world currently.
Pass success rate 70% last night, and that is comfortably better than the majority of games last season. We were around about the 50% mark for a lot of last season, so that's a stark improvement itself. The other two midfielders, I think, I feel a bit for Harrison Neal at the moment because I think he would probably rather be sitting a bit deeper. His energy is fantastic. He wins the ball back so well. And actually, you know what? His awareness on the pass he needs to make is great. He just puts that little bit too much zip on it a couple of times, and you just want him to rein it in that little bit, don't you?
He's a bit like Mellish for me, where he's all go, but he's not as refined. Mellish has been able to refine himself a little bit over these last couple of years. I think Harrison Neal's still got that little bit of maturing to do, especially on the ball. 'Cause half the time he looks like, especially when he receives the ball and he's under pressure, he looks like he's going to fall over forwards. He's just so ready to set off, and there's so much energy.
Because
he's
got a strange posture, hasn't he? Because he's almost
he doesn't look like a footballer. He doesn't look like a footballer, but he's got ability.
Yeah, he has. That's the thing. I'm not saying he's hunchback, but he's a little bit hunched almost in the way he runs everything. If you almost because he's a big lad, you don't realise it.
He looks more like a rugby player. In terms of how he's built.
Yeah. He must be about 6'2", nearly 6'3", surely. He's a big lad, but I think just the way he is, he looks a bit smaller. But yeah, I think once we can get maybe more attacking midfielder in, he'll be a bit more relieved that he can sit a little bit deeper in the team. Because actually, Josh Vella's looked quite handy this season, I think, so far. And I think actually he's linking up really, really well with Archie Davis down the right. I mean, he's offering that little not exactly the same way, but in a similar way to the way Jordan Gibson used to do with Finn Back. He's just linking up really well down that right side and giving the option and allowing Archie to get into the box, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a smart player, and it's to be expected of somebody of his experience. He'll know what to do, when to do it. Personally, I don't want him to be, the main attacking outlet from the midfield. I would like somebody else next to him who can be that more creative threat. Just because I don't think he's necessarily wide like that. I don't think he's more of a number 8 for me than somebody who's going to play more advanced and just behind the strikers. But no, I think he's been solid in these first few games.
Yeah. Onto the attack. I'm still not quite seeing it with Aduajay. I can see little glimpses, but I don't think he's getting involved in the game enough yet for me so far.
I wouldn't agree with that, to be honest. From being at the Gillingham game, there were so many times, and maybe this is just because of the loans we've had in the past, but obviously a big tactic for us is going to be playing up to Wyke, playing into his chest, and then playing from there. There'd be so many times where he'd be close enough to him to pick up those loose balls, or he'd be the one trying to win it, and even if he didn't win it, he'd at least be causing a problem, which just was so lacking in some of the Luke Planges of the world, who would challenge, but they wouldn't actually make a dent on the efforts of the defender to clear it. It wasn't hard for them to clear it because they just weren't positioning themselves right. And there was a couple of occasions as well where he's chasing the ball down and showing his pace. I don't think he's maybe the forward that people expected in terms of somebody who's going to be able to create chances completely on his own, burst past players. I do think he's going to need chances created for him, but I do see that there's a good partnership there and a good mix of pace and strength with him and Wyke.
Yeah, I don't think he's been awful, by the way, I should say, but I thought he was better against Gillingham. I just thought last night he looked a little bit he just wasn't quite in the game enough for me. Whereas it kind of brings me nicely on to talking about the subs. I thought actually Armstrong did really well after coming on, and based on what I saw, I'd be tempted to give him a start against Barrow. I think he looked really lively.
I think he can offer similar things to Adua J. The only thing is sometimes I find his decision making a bit odd. Armstrong. Maybe it's just because sometimes he's finding himself out on the wing, and obviously that's not his natural position. But yeah, sometimes I can just find what he chooses to do in certain moments a bit odd. But I do think that he put a good account of himself in. I don't think there'd be any issue with him starting at the weekend. I don't think that's what will happen. No. But I think he's certainly a player that will be of use to us throughout the season. Even if he's not, scoring regularly, he just offers a threat constantly, even if it's not a huge one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was very busy after he came on. That's the thing. That's when he played with Wyke, especially. I mean, bless him, Charlie. I just want him to get that goal. I think once he gets a goal, he'll really get going. I can really see it. Of the other subs, I think Williams did pretty well after coming on. I really like the look of him. I think he uses the ball so well. I think he's going to be a really good addition. Lavelle was pretty solid for those final few minutes when he was on. Dan Butterworth took 15 minutes to touch the ball.
I'm struggling with him as well.
He's got the ability and he's got the technique, but he was just running around a bit like a headless chicken after he came on, and that's not what we need. If he's not getting the ball, he should be coming a bit deeper to try and get it and make it a 4-man midfield. And because Armstrong can plough a load forward up front, he did it last season. Just do that and just get a grip of the game. And I just don't think he was quite intelligent enough to do that last night for me.
Yeah, I think his positional awareness isn't brilliant, both attacking-wise and defensively. Because there'd be some times where we'd be pressing, then the press would be beaten, at least initially that first line of press would be beaten, but you wouldn't have the instant reaction of, my player's gone past me, let's get back into position. And then we were just getting overloaded sometimes, and we were having to sit a little bit deeper because of that. So yeah, he'll score some good goals and score some important goals because he'll be able to pull things out of the bag that others can't. But as a starting option, I just don't see him as a starting option. No,
I don't even. And your point about the getting back into positions, right? And that's where you see the difference between him and Armstrong. Armstrong, he does the press, then he's straight back into his position. He knows exactly where he needs to be. That's where there's a stark difference there. Let's get on to the point you made earlier then, Adam. Sorry I made you wait for this one. So let's talk about this in terms of fan reaction stuff. And I have this down as, the point I've got to talk about is expectations. Is everyone setting them a little bit too high early on here? I'm not saying that we shouldn't go for promotion. I'm not saying that should not be the ambition. But do you think people need to maybe calm down a little bit? I think the problem was at the weekend, losing 4-1 looks a lot worse than it actually realistically was on the balance of play. And when you're chasing a game late on, that can happen. You can concede a couple of goals. That's the reality. The same with last night. You're pushing forward, you get caught on the break, bang, it's 2-0, game over. Because I heard some strange reactions after the game, and I was a little bit, was it that bad? I was thinking, I was looking at people around me, I was like, I don't think it was that bad. I thought we played all right in spells, and I think what it was you could really see the quality of the opposition, and that's the thing that stood out for me.
I don't know if maybe expectations isn't the right word, but I do agree with you. I just think some people expecting the world instantly because of, obviously there's been a lot of noise around what we're hoping to do this season, understandably so, given the backing that the Piatics have given, and the fact that there's pretty much all the factors are working in our favour. We've had plenty of time to prepare, we've known where we were going to be, we've seemingly recruited well. I don't expect, or I don't get why people have expected us to win these first two games and win them comfortably. Had we have drawn at Gillingham, which I think we could, I think we could have won that game, to be honest with you. Yeah. Had things gone slightly differently, obviously, big if. I never expected us to beat Stoke, but I was happy with how we played. It was a good account of ourselves. Yeah. And I think the reaction from Stephen Schumacher after the game showed that as well. Obviously, that they're not going to be, they have to be in public, being, courteous and things like that. They're not going to do a Steve Evans and just be a right arse about it. But I just couldn't get it. I was walking back and scrolling through Twitter and going, why are people getting so annoyed? I could not understand it.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. And you know what? Rebuilding the team's going to take time. It's you know what? We can talk about, and fair play. I totally get when people come at me and say, well, actually, Simo's record since, let's say, February, March 2023 hasn't been great. He's been pretty poor. And they're right, to be fair. Any other manager probably would have been sacked. And that's the reality. And he probably, has he got the time? Possibly not. But I think sometimes people are grasping to try and find the negatives a bit too much, rather than actually giving a bit more focus to the positives. And there are positives in there. Like, undeniably, we're playing better football than we did last season, with, it has to be said, a patchwork midfield. That's the reality of it. I think, there just needs to be a bit more patience. We're not going to turn into Brazil 70 overnight. That's the reality of it,
Yeah.
It takes a while. Like, look at Gillingham a couple of years ago. It's taken them a little while to actually get themselves. Hopefully we'll do it a bit quicker than they have. But it's taken them a bit of a while, to sort it out.
I think there's just a bit too much black and white going on. There's people who are going, it's either horrendous or it's brilliant. I just read some of the things last night, and I was thinking, you don't have the ability to understand nuance and context. It's not just we've lost, it's awful, and equally, if we win but don't play well, you can be critical about that as well. It's not just purely about results. There has to be some consideration of performance and context, and the bounds in which we are currently working. We're a team that's come down with a horrendous record, with a horrendous team. There's been a massive turnover of players. I think the only players who were there prior to January in that squad last night would have been Mellish and Barkley. I think I'm right in saying that.
Ellis as well.
And Ellis too, of course. So yeah, it's a huge change. And like you say, we're working with a midfield that will not be our midfield. And we've played two good sides. There's just breathe.
Yeah.
I think it was I can't remember what his Twitter handle is, but it's Chris, who I see tweeting quite a lot, who just said, can everyone just breathe for a second, just take a deep breath. We've barely played 2 games. We shouldn't be, getting the pitchforks out.
Yeah. I mean, Regan said pretty much the same as well, didn't he? He said, look, we're 180 minutes into the new season. The reality is we could have taken that to penalties last night. If Armstrong's flick goes in and we hold on and get penalties and we beat them on pens, you go, you know what? That's a real spirited performance, with a weakened midfield against some really talented young players. Great result. Fine margins. That's what it is at the end of the day. And, I totally get, look, we can't wait forever on these things. But I also think there is the problem is that, to be honest, at first I thought playing Barrow early in the season is a great opportunity. In one way it is, because, you get a win from that one, and that really does give everyone a boost. But also if you lose that game, that's when the pressure really ratchets up. That's the problem.
Yeah, yes, but again, even if we lose that game, there's still 44 league matches to go. 44. And it's dependent on how we lose. You can lose, but it's how you lose. Yeah.
I mean, and we know that there needs to be improvements to the squad. No one's been stupid. But actually, most areas look strong. I think, there's questions on the goalkeeper. I get that. But actually, if Lewis can play like, the majority of the game last night, most weeks, you'd be fine with that. He would build his confidence up as well if he could do that. And I think he'd actually play even better. Defensively, I actually think we look pretty good. I think wing backs especially, we've got 2 excellent ones in who are probably going to be starting games at the moment in Davis and Williams. Ellis has shown he can slot in when needs be. Harper's looked really good in pre-season. We look a really good threat there. I think centre-backs wise, we know what Mellish is like, and Thomas has take away the Gillingham mistake, started really well. And Hayden, like we said, he's going to take a bit of time to get his fitness up and build up a bit, but he'll get there, I'm pretty sure. Midfield, we know, is the area we need to improve. That's the reality of it. But we've got to be careful on that one as well, because we have got 6 midfielders already signed up.
Yeah.
And you can't...
The players got to come back are good.
Yeah, we've got some good players coming back. Like Callum Guy, we know, is probably one of the best midfielders in his division on his day. And
Ethan Robson, I think, will be a very solid player and help going forward as well.
Absolutely. He looked good in pre-season. That's where your luck's down when something like that happens, when you've got that playing, you think, he's going to make a difference, and then, boom, he's out for 10 to 12 weeks. the problem is, you've got to make sure that the player you bring in now is a real quality midfielder. You can't just get anyone in, because then suddenly you've got 7 midfielders and you're going to have probably potentially 2 of them not even in the match day squad most days, weeks, and that's when you start to have issues. So that they've got to really get this one right. They do need to get someone in, 100%. I personally would rather they didn't rush it too much. I'd like to have one in before the weekend, but I don't want them to rush it for the sake of it and get someone in who's not up to it. That's the key thing. It is an area where I disagree with him. I do think we need to get a winger or 2 in, maybe, even if it's Premier League loanees, just for 6 months, something, just to see how they do, just to give us an option off the bench of something different.
I agree.
If we're going to switch that 4-3-3, and to be honest, I'd be replacing Butterworth on the bench with someone like that, because I don't see it at the moment. I'm just not convinced. So I think we aren't that far off. Look, League 2 is a very simple league. You keep it simple, take your chances, play direct, get your set pieces right, and you get there. And actually, I think set pieces, the corners have gone a little bit duff in a couple of times in recent games, but actually they've looked pretty good in pre-season. The delivery is not a million miles off. You just need a little bit more on it a couple of times to get past that first man, and they're really whipped in with pace, and that's going to cause problems for teams. So I think we just, like you said, just calm down. That's all we need. Keep calm. We will get there in the end. I hope, at least, anyway. But at the same time, I do guess why fans are angsty, and look,
I don't.
With the Paetics taking over, it was always going to create that feeling of, like, for years and years of us being sort of downtrodden and, our little old Carlisle, we're doing well to be where we are and be alive. Now we've got money, people expect success straight away. But there has to be a level of real, isn't there? And I'd rather we did it properly, because I think if we allow this to build, and can it build something, it can be something consistent. That's the key thing. I hope we can sort the injury issues out, though, because that is continuing to worry me a little bit, that, really.
I think that's club wide, though. I don't think that's just an issue with us. Look at Stockport and other teams in the EFL who are having similar issues. I just think that's partly to do with schedule and how they're pushing them to the. I think Chris Lumsden spoke about this on the social. How close they're pushing them to the edge to get them as good an athlete as they can, which obviously opens them up to injury possibilities. But let's see how we are after 10 or so games. I know people won't want to give some people want to give Simpson 10 or so games, but what's the point of giving a manager a whole summer and then sacking him before it's even finished? He's built this squad. Why bring in somebody else now?
Because we've got
players who would you bring in now as well?
What's the thing? We've got players tied down to long deals, and any new manager coming in might not fancy quite a lot of them, and suddenly you are doing a complete rebuild at that point. Put it this way, this squad's not. This is not. People are going to think I'm making this sound negative here, but this squad's not going to go down. It's not. It just isn't. Once you get players fit, it won't. That's not me saying I'd accept a mid-table finish this season. I would not, 100% not. But let's not wet the bed and then throw panic stations out right now. Let's keep calm. He says, having spent the last 10-15 minutes talking about this, I suppose. But there you go. Let's wrap that bit up then. Let's move on to talk about the other results in the first round of the Carabao Cup, and then we'll finish with the X-Files. Not much to cover there. Looking through them, there wasn't actually that many upsets there, was there, really? When you look at it, there was a few hammerings. Orient beat Newport 4-1, and Stockport losing 6-1 to Blackburn. I saw that, I thought, blimey. But then, like you said, they've got a lot of injury issues at the moment, haven't they? So maybe to be expected that Barrow got a good result to beat Port Vale and go through. But look, if we played Port Vale in the first round, I'd have fancied us to maybe giving them a good game and possibly.
And they had a massively changed team too. That was not their first team at all.
Exactly. Looking through them, the only upsets I can really spot, ones that stand out, are probably Colchester beating Reading on penalties after a 2-2 draw. Fleetwood beating West Brom. I suppose that is probably the biggest upset of the lot, I reckon. Yeah, it's a good result for them, that. Harrogate winning 2-1 at Lincoln. Harrogate are a weird team. I just cannot work them out sometimes. Stevenage went very close with a 4-3 defeat at Norwich City. Preston beat Sunderland. I don't think even that is really, is it, I suppose?
No, it's not a massive one.
No. And that's it, to be honest, actually, looking through it. MK Dons got battered 5-0 by Watford. I'm not sure whether they played a weakened side, MK Dons, but you'd imagine Watford probably made quite a few changes for that one, so probably not a great sign for MK Dons, that maybe. I don't know. But no, there you go. So yeah, that's some of the key results from the first round. It doesn't mean anything to us anymore. We're out, so there you go. Let's wrap things up with the X-Files section then, Adam. Not much to cover here. Andy Cook, he scored for Bradford City in their 1-1 draw with Grimsby Town. They subsequently won the penalty shootout 9-8. He scored his penalty in the shootout.
They lost the penalty shootout 9-8.
Sorry, they lost the penalty shootout 9-8. You're right there. I misread that. I did. They lost the penalty shootout 9-8. I take that back. If I've written it down here, I don't know what. You know what? I was looking at the Shrewsbury one after it. That's why. So they lost the penalty shootout 9-8. Cook did score his penalty in the shootout as well. To be fair on him, this is not a drill. Josh Coyote has scored a goal. He's actually played, by looks of things, a decent amount of football on a pitch and scored a goal.
Let me check how many minutes he played.
He scored for Shrewsbury in their 3-3 draw with Notts County. Shrewsbury then won that shootout 4-3. I'm not sure whether... I mean, did he start it? Possibly?
He played 73 minutes.
73? Oh, God, that's some good going for him, isn't it? Didn't see that one coming. But yeah, so... well, I mean, fair play to the lad. I hope he can sort his fitness issues out, because clearly he couldn't sort them out with us. He wasn't happy with us. I think that's probably fair to say. And yeah, you move on, don't you? And finally, in terms of goals, Amari Patrick got his first goal for Tranmere Rovers in their 3-0 win over Accrington Stanley. I watched the highlights back to see what this was like, and it looked like he had a really good game for them, annoyingly.
Yeah.
He looks like...
Well, my mate who, well, it was a bit of a crossover for me, because obviously Amari Patrick scored, and I'm pretty sure it was Sol Solomon, former Marine favourite, who set him up. And my friend Luke, who I used to work with at Marine, who now covers Tranmere for the Liverpool Echo, saw some of his tweets after the game, and he was saying that Amari Patrick came off to a standing ovation from the whatever the Tranmere Stadium's called crowd. Brunton Park, is that it?
Yes, Brunton Park it is, yeah.
From that crowd.
Look, you know what? For all the people saying, "Oh, I wouldn't have him back," or anything, I'd have had him back. I would. I just think he's got that ability to stretch a game, and I think right now he could have made a difference to us at the start of the season. But hey, it's in the past. He's at Tranmere now, and good luck to him. He actually won a penalty as well in this game, and his goal was a really good breakaway goal. It was, like I said, Solomon played him through, and he just waited for Mick Kelly to come out, I think, and just slotted it past him. So fair play to the lad. And just a couple of bit of transfers to finish things up. Lewis Alessandra, he is signed for Bury after leaving Hyde United, which means he has completed the holy trinity of North Greater Manchester football teams. He's now played for Bury, Oldham and Rochdale. I don't count Salford there. That's new money. You know, we're old money here. That is the holy trinity of the three. So keeping on going at 35. Fair play to him. And Dean Bouzanis, he is signed for Stevenage on loan from fellow League One side Reading until January. And that's it. There we go. We were thinking that wasn't going to be a very long match review, but I think we got on such a topic about the whole issue of fans getting a bit worked up at the moment. We probably added about 10-15 minutes on just for that,
we've stretched it out a little bit, but whoever's on his run, your mate who's on his run, he's got an extra few minutes to listen to.
There you go, Lewis. Filling in your time for you there. You're running around the mystery in Liverpool. Yeah, thanks very much for joining us, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks once again, to our sponsors, CUOSC, for their support this season. In terms of upcoming episodes, I'm going to be recording the preview tomorrow morning with Mike. We've got Freya from the Barrow Social podcast on to talk about Barrow for that as well. So that was a really good chat with Freya, actually really interesting about Pete Wiles' departure last season and all the fallout from that. And then we'll do a review of the Barrow game on the weekend, and then the MK Dons preview. We're going to do something a bit different because we're not going to do behind enemy lines for that one, because we are a podcast of principles, if nothing else. So we don't talk to their fans. I'm going to do something a little bit different for that one. I've not 100% worked it out yet, but we will do a preview episode, but behind enemy lines won't be there, so we'll do something different to fill the space in there for that. So there you go. Right, I've warbled on for long enough now. Thanks very much for joining us, and most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.